Good morning, councillors, CEO, directors, staff, and ladies and gentlemen. We gather together, it's important to acknowledge the fact that this wonderful place we call home has seen a human occupation dating back almost 60,000 years, and in our valley that's the Yuwi people. So as a council and as a community, whenever we come together, it's important to acknowledge the traditional custodianship of our land and pay our respects to their elders past, present and those emerging. Welcome to our online audience. As you know, this meeting is being streamed live and recorded on Council's website and published in accordance with the Council's standing orders. And there's nobody in the public gallery except our Reverend Dr. Rosemary Dunn this morning. So we'll get on. Declare the meeting open. Thank you, councillors. And our opening prayer today, for the first time at Mackay Regional Council, Reverend Dr. Rosemary Dunn. Rosemary, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a delight and a pleasure to be here, and a special privilege to express my support for all of you and for what you are doing. Thank you. You do a lot of the silent work around the place. Sometimes you get an awful lot of very loud comments, but there's also an awful lot of people, and I do hear about what you're doing. So thank you on behalf of the community for being here and soldiering on, whatever. A prayer then?
Prayer then.
Let me pray. Loving God, we give you thanks for this beautiful region of Mackay, for the diverse peoples and communities that are here. We give you thanks for this council, for each person here who works so hard for the well-being of all. We pray that today your will be done in this meeting. You desire community where all live in dignity and share the resources you have given us. Inspire all here with your spirit of wisdom. Plant seeds of your vision in hearts and minds, and let the working with one another be done with humour and humility. Help all here present to have the willingness to be open to each other, to respect each other, to listen to each other, to be honest with each other, to be supportive of each other, so that something of your kingdom can be built here. And remind us, loving God, that the true business of this meeting is not simply the accomplishment of tasks and projects, but the building up of true community. And may that community be built here first, so that your spirit may flow from here through to the wider community. Bless, dear God, this meeting and all present. May your truth be revealed, your light shine brighter, the voices of those most silenced be heard loud and clear. And we ask all this in the name and the love and the power of God the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Reverend Dr. There's nobody else on council business. Apologies. We have two apologies to deal with, two leave of absences to deal with today. Councillor Bella requests leave of absence on the meeting of the 22nd of February. Somebody like to move? Councillor Mann moves, second by Councillor Hassan. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. 4.3, the leave of absence for Councillor Mann on the 22nd of March meeting. Would somebody like to move? Councillor Bonaventura, second by Councillor Hassan. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thank you. Condolences. Council's leave, I'd like to ask the council to acknowledge the passing of Mark Culligan. Mark is a former Parks and Environment employee of the council. He recently passed away, and on behalf of the council we need to extend our condolences to his family and friends and his workmates. Mark retired from council just last August. After 32 years of service, he started with the Pioneer Shire Council in 1990, spent 11 years as sort of labourer around the Goose Ponds. He became a truck driver, an operator, a tri-wing mower operator, maintaining Slade Point, Antigrove and North Mackay in the final years of his service for the Mackay Regional Council. He took his responsibilities very seriously. In his own time, he was a skilled artist and he enjoyed painting plants and flowering species, and he also enjoyed motorbike riding. It's a little tragedy that he retired last August and just passed away just recently. So on behalf of the council, we'd like to extend to his family and friends and his workmates our sincere condolences. Any further condolences? No condolences? Any conflicts of interest to declare today? No, thank you. Confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting, that's the January 25th meeting, have been circulated. Somebody like to move that they be signed as adopted. Councillor Green moves, Councillor May seconds. Those in favour? Any against? It's carried, thank you. Those arising out of the minutes are included on your agenda. We'll move on to correspondence and officers' reports. The Office of the Mayor and CEO for the month of January. CEO.
Thanks, Matt. Just briefly, for the Office Mayor CEO, two exciting things that occurred in January. The first was the appointment of the Director of Organisational Services, Angela Hayes, and on the back of that we're now commencing the recruitment process for the Director of Community Client Services, which is currently out to market with a view to being wrapped up as soon as possible, so I'll report back to Council when that's done. The other is around the executive leadership team and the broader senior leadership team are really putting the work together to start working on the organisational strategy that's going to define future years' operational plans and how we're going to move towards success in years to come.
Thanks, CEO. Questions for the CEO? No questions. So we'd like to move the report's adoption. Councillor May moves, second by Councillor Green. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Worship. And I too would like to congratulate our Director of Org Services, Angela Hayes, on her appointment. Look forward to working with Angela in her new role. I think really to highlight the monthly action plans, 100% success there across all departments doing their monthly action plans, so that's a good achievement for the safety related actions. Our corporate planning process, as the CEO mentioned, is the organisational strategy is being developed, and we look forward to seeing more and hearing more about that. A very important part of the council operations is our external grant funding, and you'll see from the report there's over $11 million received for January, with a new addition in January of the Queensland Events, Tourism and Events for the Festival of the Arts. So there's been $10,000 allocated to that. Our audit process is well on track for being completed in this financial year, and we received those reports back through the audit committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. Thank you. Adoption of council policies. There's 59, 19, 90, 66 and 03 policies they've been circulated to present for adoption. Receipt of donations, confidentiality and the naming of infrastructure, and present for rescission Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander policy at 66 and the use of the Blue Water Lagoon policy 003. Any questions? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Worship. I had asked the officers a question in relation to, we have a policy and what's the process involved in if somebody wanted to apply to this policy around naming of infrastructure assets. There's some wording in here in relation to significant persons and historical events, and I just wanted to, I guess, find out what that process is, that if somebody was going to do that, how does a member of the public understand what a significant person or a historical event is? And I don't see that level of detail in this document, so I wondered if there was another document. So I guess my question is there anything further? Have we just got to assume, I guess, that a significant person really doesn't have any level of detail around that? I'm just not sure.
The question is, we haven't identified what a significant person is. Is that what the question is?
There's no guideline around that. If I was to apply as a resident, what that means.
Okay. We've had these policies circulated for a number of weeks now.
I did put the question forward and I did receive an answer back, but I'm still not 100% sure that the answer that I received was,
Well, we can have David address that if you like, David.
Exo?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. So the answer is that in the policy it mentions that it's pretty well council's view in relation to has to be worthy to be somebody of recognition in perpetuity. So that's really a council decision to say we haven't got any more information post that. So the answer is to meet those two criteria, it's something a council decision that warrants being named in perpetuity. So it's really up to council whether it...
So it comes back to council. Okay.
okay. That's
All right,
fine.
further questions? No further questions? So for the adoption of those three policies and the rescission of those two, would somebody like to move? Councillor Kent moves, Councillor May seconds, Councillor Mann. I put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. Thank you. 11.1.3, Councillor Green's conference report on the Disability Sports Australia Conference. Any questions? No questions? Would somebody like to move the adoption? Councillor Jones moves, Councillor May seconds, Councillor Jones.
No, Your Worship, I think that's fine. Thank you for reporting back. It's fine.
Okay. There's no further debate. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thank you. Council attendance at the ALGWA conference for Councillor Mann and Councillor Townsend. Pretty well straightforward. Any questions? Somebody like to move the adoption? Councillor Jones moves, Councillor Hassan seconds, Councillor Jones.
As you said, Your Worship, straightforward.
I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Community and Client Services monthly report for January, and I think this is the first report for Acting Director Matthew Kelly. Now, over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good morning, everyone. It's safe to say January's been a very busy month for the Directorate, and I wanted to spend a little bit of time thanking each of the teams and celebrating what they've done. So Emergency Management have managed to increase the subscriptions to our emergency dashboard by 1,250, and during storm season the team are going to continue to work to increase subscribers. The MEC and Corporate Communications delivered the Gala Awards on the Australia Day Eve. We had over 450 in attendance. We had 173 nominations in 8 categories. We also had 13 events across the region during the day, and we welcomed 86 new citizens from 28 different countries. Community lifestyle through Art Space held holiday art activities with 385 in attendance, and regulatory services have been working with local food providers to improve business practices and ensure that ongoing education is occurring. We also had pest management officers in the field through the wetland walkabout area targeting the prickly pear. Lost time injuries remain absent, and the budget variance is just above 6%. In positive, I just want to say thank you to the Directorate, and again 2023 is off to a great start. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer or take on notice.
Thank you, Acting Director Kelly. Any questions? Councillor Ballard.
I do have a question regarding the last point, the cochineal insects. Many people won't be aware of how invasive prickly pear was. It locked up tens of thousands of hectares of farming country many years ago until this insect was introduced. My question is that, in my observation, prickly pear is quite widespread, especially through our beachside areas where we've got, we're revegetating as well. Is there any plans, or are there any plans, to widen the release of this insect throughout those areas, or is the population density of the prickly pear not to the sufficient point to guarantee its survival?
Director.
Yeah, through the Chair, I had a conversation with the Manager of Health and Reg yesterday, and we are investigating that. I'll have to get back to you on that one, but that's a question I myself have on the matter as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions? Councillor England.
Thank you, Worship. So Councillor Hassan's report into the Emergency Management Conference detailed a new national warning system. I noticed on the news this morning that the symbols of the new national warning system is being used in the media. Are we going to adopt the full warning system in line with the national agenda, and yes or no, if when, or have we already?
Do you want to answer that, CEO? I'll take it on notice and come back to you with a response.
Short answer through the LDMG is yes. That's part of the national rollout, so we have to do that.
Just in terms of where our timelines,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah. I suppose that's, if I may, that's what I'm going, would you implement it halfway through a season, or would you just keep it for the next season?
The LDMG hasn't adopted the use of it yet, but we know we've got it, so adopting halfway through a season is probably not the best idea.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Other questions? Councillor Ballard.
I do have a further question. I'll wait it because it is completely separate from that. I noticed that it says here council officers are working with local food providers to improve hygiene and business practices, which, in our star rating system and that, things I totally support. My question though is, do we actually at any point get a number of our providers together and actually meet with them? Because you've got the rules and regulations, then you've got practical implementation. Do we ever get their view en masse, not one-on-one, as to ways that this can be streamlined, made better, false problems, that sort of thing?
Director?
Yeah, through the chair, what I understand is the general approach of council officers is dealing with each individual business on a case by case as part of the inspection program. I don't believe that we effectively get all the operators within one space to have a forum, but that is something that I can raise with the manager and investigate.
Okay. Further questions? No further questions. Somebody like to move the report's adoption? Councillor Jones moves and Councillor Mann seconds. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Worship. So many points in this report. It's a great report and there's always so much to say in community and client services. So on page 226, YOL 1000 is certainly moving ahead with the backbone group of which I'm a part of undertaking strategic planning workshop recently. This is going to take part in formulating the guide for the next 24 months of the project and it will bring it all to fruition. The YOL 1000 conversation report and outcomes will be before us before you know it. Page 229, the in-kind assistance program. I'm sure our community don't understand exactly how much in-kind assistance we actually give back to our community to run their little events and things like that, you know, stuff like rubbish bins and park fees. So for the month, it's been $2,996 just for the month. Page 232, I note the library operations section, how exciting it was to see a digital mock-up of what we expect to see on the wall of Dudley Denny Library. Them, country and belonging is very, very fitting and I am in awe of the talent of our Yui descendant and nationally recognised artist Dylan Mooney. I've followed his journey, I think I've said this before in council, since he was a teen and this digital rendition gives me much joy. I look forward to an invitation, as I'm sure all councillors would, to attend the reveal in May this year. Page 249, Connecting Mackay, has some interesting data to read this month. It's great to see around 6,000 people trying to connect and take interest in what it is that council's doing within the region. But we do have 127,000 people in our region, so it'd be really great if a few more people could get online. But of particular interest for me is certainly the Connecting Mackay page that has the upcoming RV strategy. We have had over 500 people review those pages on this topic. We do have a very beautiful region to explore and the great outdoors are very, very close to my heart. So I can't wait to see how much our region can offer through the RV strategy, not just for us as locals, but visitors alike. And lastly, but not leastly, the page 253, emergency management. First of all, I'm sure every councillor around the table would say the same thing. A huge thank you to all of the team behind the scenes that come together to coordinate our weather events affecting our town. I know the magnitude of the numbers that do this, and as you would, Your Worship, our community just have no idea the amount of people that get involved. But obviously, nothing like a good old-fashioned wet season to increase numbers for subscribing, reaching this month an extra $1,250 for the month, but certainly at a peak where there were 23,000 people that viewed our dashboard. And I just want to remind people that residents can still opt in for the emergency dashboard. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thanks, Councillor Jones. Speaker against. Any other speakers? Councillor Townsend, speaking for.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to focus on the libraries and some of the great work that they're doing out in the community, in particular the school holiday activity program, First Aid for Kids, for young people between 5 and 12 years, and it proved to be extremely popular during the January school holidays. The activity was fun, it was practical, and it covered the most common and important first aid skills every child should learn. Over 450 children and adults attended this activity with very positive feedback being received and requests to hold these sessions again in the near future. I'd like to put out a big shout out to our home library volunteers who visited customers at home and in aged care facilities over the Christmas period. Nearly 1,800 items loaned out were collected from homes and aged care facilities, and our home library services are currently actively pushing to promote this service, and they're calling for volunteers to assist with deliveries. We all know how important a role is for our volleys in our community, but for the volunteer it's personally rewarding, and the people within our community who rely on our volunteers are so appreciative of the time that we give to them. So if you're retired, you're semi-retired and have some time to spare, why not contact our community outreach team and become a volley? And just finally, it was really great to see this fantastic support given to families who are struggling financially, being given a total of 64 vouchers to support students with back to school needs. Thank you to Daly Bay once again for sponsoring the Serena Neighbourhood Centre Back to School program.
Thanks, Councillor Townsend. Speaking for Councillor Bay.
Thank you very much, Worship. I really just wanted to do a shout out to the emergency management team and the SCS volunteers and our ELO volunteers that helped immensely through the weather event that we experienced. Also, I'd like to mention the support from the local shops at Marion in the resupply effort. I've heard firsthand how cooperative they were in coordinating the grocery requests from the people living up in the Youngler area, the chemists being able to source the prescription drugs that people were requiring, and that they went over and above to make sure that resupply effort ran very smoothly, along with our SES volunteers who actually transported the goods up to Youngler. So I think it's great to see when we come together as a community how very powerful and effective we can be.
Thanks very much, Councillor May. Any other speakers? Councillor Bonaventura speaking for.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one, just in relation to our Mackay Coastal Hazard Adaptation Plan. And I'd like to thank the residents who took up the time to attend the 4 wave tank sessions held at the Jubilee Centre, Seaforth, Armstrong Beach and Imeo. Alluvium, as we know, is preparing a draft report to Council titled Mackay Coast, Our Future, and the feedback provided by residents will assist them in developing that plan. Having attended all sessions, I can say the wave tank was a hit, especially with the younger ones, and resident feedback on issues ranged from offshore artificial reef to building a rock wall to protect all our critical infrastructure. And to residents interested, they still have an opportunity to jump on Connecting Mackay and check out what's happening.
Thanks very much, Councillor Bonaventura. Any other speakers? Other speakers, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. 11.3 and the Development Service, 11.3.1, the DA change of application. That's another change, a material change of use for the reconfiguration of a lot. 86 residential lots and 2 drainage lots and 1 balance lot, and that's been we've had a good report. We've also had an alternative motion that's been circulated. So, as we would be required to do, we'll deal with the officer's report and recommendation first of all. Are there questions around this, Councillor Bonaventura?
Just if I could quickly have the background on Council's original refusal on this and how it ended up getting approved, please.
Thank you, Director.
Yes, if Your Worship. Yes, so Council originally considered the application that is the subject of the current approval that is in place back in 2017. Oh no, sorry, that's wrong. Anyway, 2009, sorry, Council refused the application. It was the decision of Council was subsequently appealed to the Planning and Environment Court, and as a result of that process, an approval was granted for the development.
In 2009?
Well, May 2009 is when Council refused the application, so it would have been around 2009, whether it spilled over in 2010, I'm not sure.
Yeah, Bonaventura, Councillor
Yes,
Bonaventura, if you've got
thanks.
some more.
So the developer does the developer have current approval to start that work as per the approval now?
Director.
Yes, thank you, Worship. There is a valid approval in place.
Thank you.
Great, okay. Councillor Bella.
My question regards, having listened to everything that was put forward, including by our in-the-field staff, and having lived using a septic system quite a lot, septics rely on correct usage. Now, building across that designated area is not conducive to effective use and is precluded as such. What appetite do we have if we're made aware that someone has built over that area, which could well affect obviously them from a health point of view, but also the effective functioning throughout the whole area? What appetite do we have to force the removal of that structure?
Director.
Thank you, Your Worship. There would need to be a plumbing approval approved as part of the building approval, which would have the area designated. It would need to comply with all the relevant codes and regulations. If someone goes and completes illegal building work, I can't speak for what compliance action might flow or be required from there. All I can say is that based on, for the current application that sits before council for a decision, the applicant has provided information as part of the application process to show that on-site wastewater treatment can be provided to the lots to be created, and that is what is required to meet the requirements of the planning scheme.
Councillor Bell.
Subsequent question. Would the Director agree that throughout our region we would have a significant number of structures without approval?
Without what approval?
Without correct approval.
Thank you, Your Worship. I couldn't answer that. I'm not aware that there's been any full audit done of illegal building structures, so I couldn't answer, I'd just be speculating.
Okay, the further questions? Councillor Bonaventura.
With this current plan showing that a large portion will be transferred into reserve, can I ask, will there be any park infrastructure associated with the development? And will council be taking responsibility for the upkeep? And this includes that large parcel of bushland that is going to get handed over.
Director.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Under the proposed conditions, that land is to be transferred to the state, and that will not contain park infrastructure and will be maintained by the state.
But further to that,
Councillor Bonaventura.
do we do maintenance for the state on some of their lands?
Your Worship, not only if we've got some kind of management obligation over the land, if it's been transferred to us by way of reserve, but if it's state land sitting with the state, it's not our responsibility.
Okay. Further question, just in relation to that. Now, the site appears to be in the red zone under the bushfire hazard overlay. And in their application said a fire break is included in the proposal, which aims to provide future dwelling houses with a further buffer in the event of a bushfire, allowing for more time to evacuate. Since there has been a change in the policy, does this still comply with the new policy adopted by council last year? And who is responsible for maintaining that fire break and keeping the fuel load at a minimum?
Director.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I'll deal with the fire breaks first. So the fire breaks will sit in the lots to be created in private property and will be maintained by way of a covenant, and the obligation will sit on those private property owners under that covenant. In terms of the current bushfire standards and the development in general, it is mapped in that hazard area. There is the ability under the current bushfire hazard overlay code, in the outcomes of that code, to actually demonstrate that the mapping no longer matches what's on the ground and or the approval that exists for that site. So there is an avenue to go through, which would mean that future development isn't assessed against the code.
So I just need a qualification there.
Certainly, Councillor Bonaventura.
So that states that, because in the map it shows there's a small buffer inside the resident's property, but they're talking about 12.5 metres outside of that. So there's a covenant to have each individual property owner maintain that 12.5 metre buffer to the bushland.
So it sits within their properties, yes, Your Worship. The covenant, the bushfire buffer has been, my understanding is through the changes that have been proposed to this application. So the original approval had the buffer sitting within common property. Under the new approval, that buffer has been brought into the private properties and will be the responsibility of those private property owners by way of covenant.
So to make it clear, the state land, bushland, can come right up against your property. there is nothing to stop that state bushland regrowing up against the boundary of your property.
I can't talk about the state's obligations for its land, but the bushfire hazard within the development has been managed through the implementation of that covenant on those private properties.
Okay, further questions? Councillor Seymour has a question.
Yeah, you just mentioned in covenant. Is there a covenant supplied with this application?
Director?
A building covenant?
A building covenant. Director?
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't believe so. I can't answer that, but it wouldn't be.
We wouldn't normally get a building covenant
It would
with
be unusual for us to not have it at
change
this
of use.
stage.
Wouldn't normally get one. Further questions? Councillor Anglin?
Thank you, Worship. If legal building work is approved, as in like a shed, there's enough more than anecdotal suggestion that these blocks will not fit a dwelling of an average size, a septic of required size, and a shed of average size. If a shed of average size is built and then there's an application for a house which would require plumbing, what's the process? Do we do we have are we telling them they can't build the house until the shed is removed?
Question, Director?
Yes, thank you, Worship. No, they would need to size the house appropriately so they can fit everything on the block or make the house double storey, or they would have to modify the design of a house. There's a lot of assumptions there around what's average, and it's very hard because all the sites are different, and it will depend on how many bedrooms in the house and or a range of different factors. So yeah, it would depend, but no, it wouldn't be. I mean, if they wanted to remove the shed and build a massive house, I guess that's would be up to them, but that's not something we would require. They would have to design the house around the land available.
So what I get from that, Your Worship, is that if they put a shed on there first, it would limit the type of building that they could then apply to council to build on that block of land.
Probably right, but I don't know whether we can do that. Can we?
Or would we just not approve until they came up with something that...
They would have to demonstrate that they could meet the wastewater treatment needs for the building that was being designed on the property.
Last question, Your Worship. Have we as a council, in the immediate area of that part of the region, either rejected or conditioned another development application of a block size larger than 1,000 metres, as in have we previously rejected any 1,000 metre blocks in that immediate area?
In the metropolitan area?
Or have we conditioned larger sizes than 1,000 square metres?
Director?
I can't answer that, sorry, Your Worship. All I can say is that the land in Midge is Zone Township, which has 1,000 square metre lot size.
We are getting into questioning, which we've been dealing with in a briefing. We can't expect the staff to answer those questions in a council meeting. So if you want to lay this on the table and deal with it in a briefing, that's fine. Let's have the questions out in a briefing. Or we test it right now. Because otherwise we'll be making a lot of questions that the staff can't answer, and that's not fair.
Your Worship, I understand what you're saying. An alternate motion was delivered last night. This is a very difficult decision. I acknowledge what you're saying. I'm just trying to make sure that I have all the information available to me to make the decision appropriately, and this is one of those tricky, hard ones.
And the directors have indicated a couple of those you can't answer at this stage.
Yep, I'm happy with that.
Councillor Seymour?
One
Councillor Bonaventura?
Your Worship, and this is on behalf of one of the submitters, and it related to drainage and flooding. The applicant's response to the submitter perceived risk is the proposed drainage plan aligns with the existing overland flow paths, and I'm happy that's an acceptable outcome. My question is, will the RLs of the finished and existing drainage and overland flow paths be taken, and then who is responsible for monitoring and maintaining the 12-metre wide drainage reserve? If that sediment will start to build up and then it gets higher, obviously, it starts to flood areas. Who is responsible for monitoring and maintaining those RLs?
Director?
I think the maintenance of the drain would fall to council to maintain into the future once it's built, and it would be required to be built in accordance with the required levels and standards that would be assessed through operational works approval.
As with drainage on most other DAs.
Okay, so the third, the applicant's response also states that during major storm events, Q50, Q100, the internal road network will direct the site's local overland flow within the road carriageway to the proposed legal points of discharge. With the RLs on Bunderson Street appearing to be lower than the estate, will some of that flow be directed to Bunderson Street? Or Bunderson Avenue, should I say, it's not street, Bunderson Avenue.
Director.
Your Worship, there's enough controls through the proposed conditions to have all of the relevant matters around drainage assessed so as to meet all the relevant standards. I'm not sure that we have that detail or that I can't answer that question now, nor do I believe it's necessary for us to be able to still maintain our recommendation of approval of the application. Those matters can be addressed.
Councillor Green.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify with the 12.5 metre buffer now within the landholder's land. So that's the 12.5 metres from their back fence predominantly, and then and they aren't able to build a dwelling in that area. The wastewater treatment on site could go in that area though. I'm just working out in my head, is it now taking 12.5 metres from that property that's already having to house a dwelling as well as the on-site wastewater treatment?
Yeah, sorry,
Okay.
I can't answer that question.
Oh, okay.
All I can say is that they would be able to build the dwelling in that buffer. I know that for certain. Whether or not they could use that for the wastewater treatment, I don't know. I'd have to, but they can't build in it. It's got to be kept through the dwelling.
Thank you.
Other further questions? Is this something that you want a further briefing on? Or is this just, has the questions been answered?
Feels that they need further information.
If you feel you need further information, and there's about half a dozen questions that the director couldn't answer, then we lay it on the table, we get a briefing on it, and we bring it back to council.
I think it's something like to go. Just
That's
listen.
what somebody like to move. I'll move that we lay it on the table, pending further briefing from the directors to the council, and we bring it back to the council at the soonest possible opportunity. Those in favour? Any against? Councillor Bell and Councillor Boyovich are against, so it's laid on the table. Thank you. Right. Receipt of petitions. No petitions, no tenders, no notified motions, nobody registered for public participation. Late business. Councillor Bella.
As many would know, the Sports Expo is on Sunday, and I'm just using this opportunity to get it out there that, as well as the Queensland Rugby League and the Mackay District Rugby League being there, there will be a couple of our All Abilities people there handing out some brochures. As I've said in the past, I'm not saying that All Abilities football is the sport for everyone that has any form of disability, but it would be a tragedy if many thought that it wasn't for them without looking at it or trying it, or feeling that they weren't up to it. The level of that activity is actually caters for the individual. We have people in motorised wheelchairs at different times. The tempo of everything slows down particularly. We do ask them to extend themselves a little. It's like any other sport in that regard. So I'd like to ask everyone in this room and anyone that happens to look at the live stream or whatever, that they actually let people know that that we will be there. There will be some brochures to hand out, and if you want to take more than one, because you know some people that may be interested, just because you come doesn't mean you've got to play or whatever. You can sit there and watch for as long as you like until you feel the need or feel comfortable enough to actually join in if you decide it's for you. The other news is that we are creating a club which will give us the opportunity to apply for different grants and different other things regarding insurance and that sort of thing. It will be different to other clubs in that normally you have the other clubs competing in a competition, whereas this will be a club in itself with a number of different groups within that club. And I hesitate with competing because the term, the day it becomes super competitive, I think, is the day that it will have lost the essence of what we're trying to do. So that in itself is heartening. We're looking at actually getting some people that are fully qualified to actually help people that are on the sidelines that don't feel confident enough to step out there. It's all very well for me and a couple of others to do it, but it's always good to have someone that is actually qualified in that sort of thing, because disability is such a wide category. There are so many aspects of it, and unfortunately many people don't just suffer from the one. So you do have a number of things that we've got to deal with. But once again, I encourage everyone, come along, grab a brochure, or if you can't, send someone else to come and grab a brochure and hand them out to anyone you might think would be interested in becoming involved.
Thanks, Councillor Ballard. Further business, Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Worship. This weekend I had the privilege of attending a Special Olympics Queensland leadership camp on the Sunshine Coast with one of our Special Olympics Mackay athletes who's on our leadership team. The Special Olympics Queensland offered the camps for several reasons, and there's mentoring opportunities, there's the ability to build capacity for the athletes, and there's skills and confidence that can be applied in their everyday life. I believe that Special Olympics offer a voice for people with intellectual disabilities who are sometimes overlooked for many things. When we're talking about access and inclusion, I think we need to remember that people with intellectual disabilities are able and should be considered to participate in any sport or any event they wish to participate in. So being part of Special Olympics Mackay is very special to me, and I get far more out of it than what I give. So I'm really looking forward to the weekend and the skills that can help our athlete that I'm taking to develop and apply in everything that she does on a daily basis.
Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Worship. February is Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month, and it's held every year in Australia to raise awareness on the signs and symptoms of ovarian cancer, to highlight the risk factors for ovarian cancer and to educate Australian women on ovarian cancer diagnosis and treatment. Here's some frightening statistics to take on board. In 2020, there were 944 deaths from ovarian cancer in Australia. In 2022, 1,815 women were diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Of these, it is estimated there will be 1,016 deaths. Mackay can be very proud that we have the Trudy Crowley Community Cancer Support Centre, and we're supporting women who are walking the journey of ovarian cancer. And we can be very proud to boast that we had employed the very first fully trained palliative care nurse in Australia, being right here locally to provide care and support to our patients. In its early stages, ovarian cancer usually has no symptoms. So during the month of February, I urge all women to listen to your bodies, see their GP if they are experiencing any unusual symptoms.
Thanks very much, Councillor Townsend. Councillor May.
Thank you very much. Yes, a couple of events that are coming up. Friday at midday there is a Red Rose rally in memory of Wendy Sleeman. That's about, the domestic violence and raising awareness around domestic violence. As we know, Wendy lost her life earlier this year. That is happening on Friday the 10th at midday at Blue Water Quay if people would like to go along. And the other event that's happening on Saturday is Remembering Shandy, and that will be held at Carrot Park. It's a community event commemorating 10 years since Shandy was murdered here in our city, and that commences at 5 o'clock. It's a community event with music and information and those sorts of things being provided. Gold coin donation with the proceeds of that going to the Mackay Women's Service. I invite you all to come along and tell your friends.
Thanks very much, Councillor May. Further late business, councillor Bonaventura.
Thank you, Worship. Now, Councillor Ballard did try to steal my thunder in relation to the Sports Expo, but he was very narrow in his focus. So I'll just expand a little bit on that. There will be well over 90 sports available for all ages and all abilities, as Councillor Ballard did say. So certainly invite the public, bring your family, come along. There'll even be a sausage sizzle and some healthy food out there to eat for anybody that so wants. But the other important thing, or the big thing I'd like to mention, is that we are planning to change it slightly this year and have a quiet hour. And that's for those with sensory perception issues. We're going to lower the lights, reduce the volume, turn the music off. So it'll give them a chance just to wander in peace around those stalls for that last hour to see what sport they may be interested in. So one and all, you're welcome this Sunday from 9 a.m.
Thanks, councillor Bonaventura. Councillor Hassan.
Thank you, Worship. Just want to pass on thanks from the vocational training team of the nurses and midwives from Timor-Leste for your welcome this morning. They have actually been here since early January. Unfortunately, we couldn't get them in for the welcome until now, and they're actually finishing up their studies on Friday. But they've had a fantastic opportunity to be here in our region. The combined Rotary clubs of Mackay were actually integral in getting that funding from the Rotary International Foundation. So over $130,000 was raised to bring those midwives here. They've been housed in our region, so that economic benefit to our region has been fantastic. But the educational benefit to those midwives has been far greater, and they're very appreciative of the reception they've had from the community. They've had a fantastic time. Myself and Councillor Mann are also in the Zonta Club, and we hosted them last night, where we were able to present them with 1,200 birthing kits. So they're obviously from a developing country. Many of them work in areas where they don't even have medical facilities. So those birthing kits are very basic supplies, clean plastics and gloves, soap, and a small scalpel to enable a woman to give birth in a fairly safe environment. Definitely better than what they would normally experience. So they're taking 1,200 kits back. We're currently a little bit concerned about how we're going to get them all back there. We're chasing suitcases. If anyone's got a spare suitcase. I think they said they weighed about 75 kilos. There's a lot of extra baggage to go back to get those back with, but we'll work it out. We always do. Rotary is very innovative. They've had a really great time. They finish up studies here on Friday. There is an official dinner Saturday night if anyone would like to come along at the Northern Beaches Bowls Pub as a sort of a final farewell for them. And Rotary's been really grateful for all the support they've had from the community. I know one of them mentioned to Council Man last night some of the things that they've noticed in our community just with our housing and the way that we do things, but a couple of them jumped on our purple scooters and wondered why they didn't work. They didn't realise they needed an app and some money to actually make them go. So little cultural differences, but it's been fantastic hosting them, and thanks again.
Thanks, Councillor Hassan. Any further late business? Councillor Seymour.
Yeah, the old Sports Expo is a bit of a fair plug this morning, but I'd just like to say that I was talking last meeting and I didn't know, I was only new on the committee, but it was used to be called the Sports and Recreation, and they were disappointed that they only had 70, or last meeting, there were 70 applicants. But then I suggested to them, I went through the list and had a look, a lot of them are recreational. So next year we're going to try and, well, hopefully try and promote more recreational in to get the numbers back up. So, you know, like back carpet, weaving and clay pottery and all that. So hopefully next year we can bring the numbers back to what they were, and everyone get out there. So it's actually the JET Expo, so you've got to maintenance service support.
Thanks, Councillor Seymour. Any further late business? No further late business. We have, councillors, we have one confidential report to consider. It's fairly straightforward. Does anybody want to go into confidential mode? Okay. Would somebody like to move 17.1, the disposal of council land at 41 Caelan Mount Charlton Road at Caelan? Moved by Councillor Jones, seconded by Councillor Bonaventura. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. There's no further business. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, CEO. Thank you, directors. Declare the meeting closed.